Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome. First, I want to say thank you very much to Patrick and to Dassault Systems for inviting me back. I was here 2 years ago introducing Digital Twin Consortium. So my name again, Dan Isaacs. I'm the CTO and GM for Digital Twin Consortium. And one thing I'll ask you, if you caught it, what's one of the key things that you saw, the common threads in these last presentations? It's been going from simulation to real. It's going from a virtualization to physical. And that's exactly the value that the digital twin provides, a synchronized interaction between the real and the virtual to give you actionable insight to then optimize your real. So a true value of a digital twin is this closed loop continuous improvement. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. We were founded by Microsoft and Dell, by Ansys, a couple other companies, over 5 years ago. We started with 50 groundbreaker members. Fast forward 5 years, we now have over 200 members. We are now in 30 different countries, and we have over 25 universities around the world as members. And the other common theme you've been hearing is this collaboration, being able to build together and create this ecosystem. So not only is it just solution providers, it's the research, it's the academia, it's local government because of mandates, directives, regulations, think about AI. And it's also the end users. And through this, we've been able to establish a breadth and depth of level of experience and expertise unheralded, really being able to bring together industry leaders and collaborators to drive the adoption of digital twins. And we look at it from both the vertical side as well as from the horizontal side. When we think about the horizontal side, the key foundational elements being the data, being the security of that data, being the trust, the reliability, the resiliency, the privacy when you think about healthcare. Also, safety, as we just saw some examples, functional safety. We published a book beginning of this year. Out of 11 chapters, 10 of them are from members. The 11th is actually from one of our liaisons. And we look at this, and not only just that way, but we also look across the global perspective. We have a regional branch network, as you can see here. Members that have very close ties to academia, to the local governments, and to the incubators, the accelerators, where these innovators come out of universities or they come out of private industry. And then we can connect these together, again, back to that ecosystem and collaboration. But we don't stop there. We then look at other organizations, other liaisons, other consortia, alliances, and work together. And the majority of these came from members saying, we're working with this organization, you should be a part of this, we should link together. And that's exactly what we've done. These are some of the use cases that are in progress with our members across virtually every industry. And the end users really are the catalysts for these new use cases. Just brilliant in terms of what we've been seeing through our members. We created a technology showcase, a reference library of use cases and case studies to demonstrate the value of the digital twin at the different phases of its life cycle through real-world applications. But we continue to evolve the consortium. So you can see here that progression going from the 50 members now to over 200, building that out from a regional to a global, and continuing to drive that. Taking that technology showcase, those reference examples, they're all on our website, and now actually moving that forward into implementations. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. We're actually going to be launching a new focus area around software-defined vehicles. So that's coming up. We have another focus area we're going to bring out around quantum compute and operations, and we continue to build that out. And we look at these emerging trends, cross-industry applications I've been talking about, collaborative ecosystems, sustainability, as you saw earlier. But then now we look at generative AI capabilities. How can those build in? AI-driven multi-agent systems. is a pivotal paper written by an internationally recognized expert in digital twin, Dr. Michael Greaves, also a member of the consortium, because he sees what we've been able to establish and the value we're providing. This was back in 2023. Talked about intelligent digital twins and complex systems. Most downloaded digital twin paper on ResearchGate. Our members took this and they looked at it from that standpoint, where he brought out the concept of traditional digital twins to intelligent digital twins, where our members actually took that, operationalized it, mechanized it, built that together, and they took it one step forward, talking about the evolution of the digital twin into the generative space, where you have two branches. One is where the data can literally speak to you because of multimodal models, but it can also look at it from the standpoint of intelligent automation, where now you bring in agents. So one of the things we did was we looked at how do you start your journey of a digital twin? Understand it in terms of capabilities, not a specific architecture or implementation. From those areas of really looking at it from capabilities through a membership, and this came based on a conversation with one of our members and their end customers, we built that out into 61 core capabilities based on the way the data is ingested and categorizing that into the security of the data, into the trust of the data. How do I understand what that data is? Garbage in, garbage out. I need to structure that data. I need to manage that data. Well, we've had members join us because of that. There are over 5,000 downloads, again, on our website. And they built out this webinar, and we created a composability framework working group where we brought in Gen AI. Here's the latest version of this, 61 capabilities. Again, grouped in those 6 specific areas, foundation being the security and the trust. Brought out a webinar explaining this. Several hundred people looking at this. Downloads again. How can we bring Gen AI into this and advance that? And through that composability framework with our members working together, they said, let's take that same approach but apply it to agents. And let's understand it in the category, bottom line, governance and safety. But then let's look at it from perception, cognition, learning, action, execution, interaction, and collaboration. So we came out with that. 45 different capabilities. Organized, referenced, this is all on our website. Again, full availability. And then we characterized it, cutting through the hype of digital twin by demonstrating the value, cutting through the hype of what an agent is by characterizing them based on increased levels of autonomy. And then publishing this on GitHub, all open source, reference examples, designs, how to use this, how to implement these. Now we have a dual development flow. As we've evolved the digital twin from traditional to intelligent to generative, we can show, identify what the capabilities are. From those capabilities, in parallel, let's identify opportunities to automate those capabilities. The entire core process, all of that, example on our website. And here's one example of that, looking at this. Once you go through that sequence, here's a water reservoir challenge. Identify what's your objective function. We heard that earlier. Critical decision problem. Start with the business problem. What is the issue at hand you want to solve? What is the job you're hiring the digital twin for? And what would that resume of the job of the digital twin in terms of capabilities look like? And then go forward and look at those agents based on that agent periodic table, understanding that and now building that out, fully automated, and make it interactive. Let's look at this from a resource management perspective in terms of this. But then let's look at the essentials only. And from that point, let's look at that in context of the entire capabilities. Again, all of this automatically built through the examples we have. So we talk about multi-agentive generative AI systems. One of our members brought this forward and looking at the physical to intelligent. Agents that observe, they can plan, they can reflect, they have memory. Then they can react and act. They can reason, they behave. Based on this and this concept of deontics, look at the obligations, the permissions. Let's take a look at an example. This is in production, in a field, in an oil field in Middle East. You can see here, safe operations. Looking at the pressure, looking at the temperature, pressure, and flow rate. So let's start. Now you see the temperature is increasing, the pressure is increasing. Wait, I detect there's an issue. Caution, you're reaching the threshold. Bring in the agents. Agents automatically. We have 3 agents now. You have a safety agent. You have a causal agent, and you have an operational. Let's create a control room. Let's understand that cause. Let's look at that. And now let's get the agents to understand in the context of what is the impact. We need to reach consensus. Right here, you can see 5 levels of consensus going on right now. The agents discussing, communicating between themselves, reaching a point, we see we've solved the issue. Final questions, agreed, optimization, safe operation. Back to that. But I want to look at that history. I want to understand that more detail. Let's go back. Now we have a way to go and look and see exact what was the conversation going on. What were those agents determining? They were concerned. You'll see concern levels come up in purple here. You can see the 3 agents discussing. Here we go. Well, this is what our expectation is. No, we have a concern that might not work. Let's figure out, let's reach a consensus. From that consensus, let's agree. Let's get the human in the loop. Do we agree with this? Yes, you're okay to proceed. Action taken. Now you're going from a critical situation to now agreed, and now you're back and you're at safe operation again. That's an example in the field right now of how these multi-agentic generative AI systems are acting and responding. This is one of our most recent members. AMB has now joined the consortium. Why did they join it? What was the value in seeing that? Accelerate the development of composable, secure digital twin systems, operate autonomously while seamlessly integrating industrial infrastructure. They're bringing the edge intelligence to play from this composability standpoint to scale from pilot to enterprise-wide deployments. And look at the areas: energy, advanced manufacturing, robotics, humanoids, all the things we saw earlier, healthcare, life science. And they have their open source server, Lemonade server, OpenAI compatible, all the different applications. We've had a program running with XM Pro and AMD for the last 2 years to bring this forward. And now you can see, with their latest technologies, being able to bring this type of a multi-agentic system forward. They did a press release back in July on this. And they talked about minions, being able to bring this collaboration, the cost accuracy challenge, looking at this in today's systems. So what do I mean by cost accuracy? You can see here the complexity of the task for your frontier models, but then the cost for your local models. With this program, they were able to reduce the cost by an average of 6x, while they maintained over 98% or 98% of the performance. So let's go back to the consortium and thinking about that. How can we leverage that? What if a digital twin-based system could communicate and collaborate across different boundaries, just like we do? Cross-domain integration, one of the biggest challenges. Well, back in January, we announced we were bringing forward, this is the year of the implementation. This is where the rubber hits the road, as one of our members stated. We brought out this testbed program. In May, we announced 8 testbeds. One of these was around cognitive network orchestration. Can I borrow agents from one platform with their expertise in a safe, secure manner and bring that? The answer is yes, you can. You can see the diversity of the testbeds. Real-world implications, real applications. Well, last month we announced another 8. This resonates very well with our members, and even we have had now companies join us just because of being able to demonstrate this implementation. In fact, you'll hear from Antonios Rowan, he's professor at Rowan University, Antonios Konstos at Rowan University, and he'll be talking about one of the test beds and what he's been able to do and accomplish with that. Working in collaboration, working as part of the ecosystem of the Digital Twin Consortium. We also have virtual twins for smart factory. We're in the manufacturing side, here we are, bridging the physical and virtual to streamline production lines. And you can see the different values coming from Dassault Systems. Dassault and Omron presented at our member meeting in Leeds just last month. So again, all the contributions working together collectively. Another one of our members is actually working at the high school level. And what they're doing is they're just disrupting the way advanced manufacturing is being taught at high school level and bringing students to be able to use these new methodologies, 3D printing, metal printing, and be able to bring that forward with different types of manufacturing aspects, additive as well as subtractive. Look at the ecosystem they have behind them. They're continuing to build that. They're leveraging the work and the collaboration from the consortium. Another example, here you can see one's performance learning using agentic AI, and another is using a variety of our members. That ecosystem, there's 9 different members collaborating on this testbed alone, bringing together that impact. So through these testbeds, through this implementation focus the consortium now has, you can see we have 16 testbeds, 10 different countries, 4 continents, and look at the different areas we're focusing in. It's about the innovation, the collaboration, the leadership, and the growth that this consortium is providing. And continues. We just recently announced we were acquired by the Enterprise Data Management Association. Another 300 companies now adding. So over 800 companies in terms of the entire object management group, standards development organization, Digital Twin Consortium, Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance, and now the EDM. So we have our next member meeting in San Francisco, and I'm pleased to say that Patrick is going to come. He's going to be one of our keynotes and talking there. So thank you again for that. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dan. I think we have time for question. The agentic demo is quite impressive, I think. First question around this demo. Mm-hmm. So there's more and more agents, but those are very skilled agents.
Yes.
They are focusing on specific activities and tasks in the context of that company with a control tower, basically. Mm-hmm. So how do you see in the short to middle term the balance between the real workers and the virtual, let me call them companions? Mm-hmm. How do you see that equilibrium happen?
That's a great question, and it's a key point, is these agents are here to augment, to supplement. They're not here to replace. In fact, if you think about it, the manufacturing industry, several other industries, they can't find skilled workers. They have a huge gap in terms of being able to get people to come in. One of the statistics I heard was a company will train somebody the first 2 weeks. By the end of the month, they will have left. It's incredible what is happening right now in these fields, and they're not able to do that. So these agents are really working together. They're collaborating, they're augmenting, they're supplementing those skills, and they're addressing that gap. But at the same time, it's very important, as we've heard in the previous presentations, that we do train the people coming in and understanding these technologies. I was just at a conference in Chicago, the Connected Worker Conference. I had Dr. Monique Reeves from Austin Community College. And they are the global training center for Samsung and for Tesla, and talking about how important it is that we do educate and bring these forward. You saw at the high school level. Yep. There's several others. And Antonius will talk also about what he's doing to educate and bring the students up to this level. So these agents are not replacing. They're really here to help to supplement, to augment, and address that gap right now in the shortage that they have.
Very clear. And along that line, before giving the mic to the room, I have another question, which is related to the EDM acquisition of OMG.
Okay.
Because the enterprise data management, because it's all about the workforce of the enterprise level. So it's not only supplement and augment, it's also memory when people are leaving, when people are retiring. Those agents could be the liaison between the generation that leaves and the generation that takes over. So how do you see those agents in a global enterprise framing with EDM? Do you see you will have more and more synergies between the 300 new companies that you're bringing and the one that you're already managing with OMG and the consortium?
It's another great question, and what we've already seen is actually one of our regional branch members is looking at working with some of the team in Italy, and they are looking at software-defined automation and virtual PLCs. And what they're able to do now, they just got reached out by EDM where they're looking at the data spaces. And let's figure out how we can collaborate and even bring something forward in that space together and combine. And we see those collaborations now popping up all around the different areas because Enterprise Data Management Association is also global in its reach. So it's a very complementary.
It's really enterprise knowledge management that maybe you should name it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Are there any questions from the room? Over here, there's a mic.
And I will address one more point that you brought up.
So I have two questions, and I think they're related. So one is, when you bring these agents into a new context, how do you ground them? Meaning you plug an agent into a new plant, it's got new sensors, it sort of knows what to do, but it has to be grounded in that new context, that new data, number one. Number two, in your sort of multi-agent framework, how do you deal with the concept of risk? That basically there's higher risk, lower risk steps, the sort of actions that the agents are permitted to take are in some way informed by that?
Excellent questions. Number one, you saw with these, that outer layer of rules of engagement. So the agent is actually trained by the subject matter expert. So he is gaining that knowledge as that subject matter expert is now retiring. So he now has that knowledge and understanding. It's also trained on the standard operating procedures of that specific application, of that company, of that situation. There are also, as you saw, the different checks and balances in terms of the human in the loop or the human on the loop. And so they're able to understand and realize, I don't have permission to take this action. In fact, one of our members was saying, they were really astounded because they were running this program and all of a sudden, an agent popped up and said, I'm sorry, sir, but I don't have permission to execute that action. If you give me agency, I will then execute. And so they hadn't really thought about that and looked at it in that manner. But it's controlling in terms of what level of agency, what permissions you give to that agent, and you control that. And with the human in the loop, you can actually see what are the recommendations before taking that action, if that's what you want, as long as it's within those standard operating procedures, as long as it's also within the training, the knowledge that they already have. But if they take an action that doesn't make sense, or they recommend something because they have memory, you can go back through reinforcement learning, train them, and make sure that that doesn't happen again. So there are multiple checks and balances and opportunities for that. But that's always one of the bigger questions.
I guess it's all about memory at the enterprise level and skilling of workforce with virtual and real companions, in fact.
Absolutely.
Well, let's thank again Dan Isaacs for this very interesting talk. Thank you, Dan.